Okay, so I don't have a new one. So warm up is five things. Give me a list. Give me a list of five things, fictional or real.
Harry Potter, GPS, Mario Kart.
What? No.
What?
You give a category. You just listing things.
I don't remember this game.
Okay. Do the whole explanation again. This was 2 weeks ago. So you give me. You would say like, give me five. You can do an actual list like five 80s movies you recommend or something like that, or it could be like uh, five superpowers you wouldn't want to have, but you'd be like, name five kitchen appliances, and I'd be like, first do the song. These are five things. These are five things. Both of us do that every time, and then I'd say blender. And you both go, and you go one, and then can opener. You go two.
Okay, I get it.
Okay.
Do I saying a category first, or you're saying a category first?
You give me a category first.
These are five things.
These are
These are.
five things.
Give me five books you want to read.
VO by Mark Cashman. It's one. You say one.
One,
I'm Dying Up Here by William Knopfelseder.
two,
The Thing Omnibus by John Byrne and others.
three,
Uh, books I want to read. Some other Arthur Miller play,
four,
and the manual to my brand new Nintendo Switch 2.
five.
These are five things.
Five things. These are five things.
Uh, give five. That would be obviously an ultimate list, but five of your favorite songs to listen to while you're driving.
Uh, Bicycle by Queen.
One,
El Dorado by Agent Orange.
two,
YYZ by Rush.
three,
Jeepster by T-Rex.
four.
And Spark by whatever that kid group is that does that song.
God, I think it's Cabin Crew. These are five things.
Five
Five
things. These are
things.
five things.
All right. Hello and welcome to Twin Killing, show where two twins are killing it while talking about things, lately movie reviews. I'm Jason Luna.
I'm Marcus Luna.
This podcast not sponsored by Delicious Mountain Dew, but maybe it should be.
Mountain Dew.
Is that a commercial or is that just your voice you're doing?
It's a commercial.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Okay, how's it going, Marcus?
Well, my soccer team just lost, but overall things are going pretty well.
Hey, that's good.
Things are going good for you.
Yeah, not much to say. Got some a little bit of part-time what do you call it? Freelance work, video editing, which I don't really like because it takes too much time. But it's good I have it, I guess. And Mets and Dodgers lost today, so it is what it is. All right, so slowly making changes to this podcast, but I didn't have time this week to implement my ideas, general ideas. One of us will be more of a host, and one of us be more of a side commentator each episode. But I don't really have time to set that in this week. All that being said, you picked The Abyss to watch. What drew you to pick The Abyss?
Uh, Probably more than a lot of people. I've really, only he's actually one of the most profitable directors of all time, so I shouldn't say that, I guess. But I really enjoy the films of James Cameron, and The Abyss was the only one I haven't seen a minute of. Um, I don't know if True Lies, I don't know if I've seen all the way through in one go, but I've seen most of it. I think watching The Abyss actually finished watching all of James Cameron movies. I even saw Piranha 2 several years ago, so it's my favorite directors, and I got to finish his filmography by watching this.
Well, I mean, you probably haven't watched. I think there's at least two going to the bottom of the ocean.
His
Uh,
narrative filmography, okay?
okay,
Okay.
what's the deal with narrative filmography? All right, let's pull up. Trying to pull up a Wikipedia page of the movie. Feeling miserably. Oh, there it is. Uh, yeah. So I also do not have any direct knowledge of The Abyss. It's definitely an outlier in the James Cameron filmography, mostly because it's not a Terminator movie, so it doesn't really have the archetypal action narrative that is more popular with fans.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, the elevator pitch of this movie is a bit more of like you have to trust that Cameron's doing it because it'd be like, oh, they're on an oil rig and there's aliens.
Yeah. And then nuclear nuclear issues are afoot because it's a nuclear sub that crashes that starts at the beginning of the movie and moves forward the rest of the plot.
Yeah. So like, might be less organized than last time, but we'll see. Something I noticed about this movie, I don't know if you thought about it. Uh, so the main character in this movie are a divorced couple that, due to
Hmm.
the series of the events of the film, rekindle their romance.
They're not divorced, they're actually estranged.
Let's talk about divorce
But
impending at some point.
divorce is a divorce when that.
Of course, unless of course the divorce is misread. I got it. Yeah, all right. But my point is, was estranged, almost divorced, calling each other names, whatever.
Hmm.
I don't know if you made this connection. James Cameron is the most famous divorcee in cinema directing history. There's probably a director who had more marriages, but the context and fame of his wives has made his divorce more interesting. And so I think you think there's a possibility that part of the inspiration for this movie was, well, okay, full timeline. So this movie came out in 1989, and wait, let me just double check. I gotta double check. Ah, technology. Oh my god. Okay, so it's doubly weird. So this movie came out in 1989. In 1984, James Cameron divorced Sharon Williams. In 1985, he married Gail Ann Hurd, who I don't know if you noticed, is the executive producer of the movie.
Hmm.
And so it seems like, this kind of like, you could argue it's some kind of like meta narrative, like rekindling love with the new wife. It's kind of like how they were estranged and then they get together. Uh, but he literally divorced her the year the movie came out, Gail Ann Hurd. So it was probably after the movie was released and made, but it's pretty close. So I'm just saying that there's multiple possible connections about the virtues or non-virtues of divorce.
Perhaps.
I mean, it kind of is like the through line of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, not so much, I guess you could argue. Like you said, they're not technically divorced. It's just about them finding each other again and realizing how important they are to each other. Blah blah blah. But that is like their love is easily the takeaway of the movie. And the movie would be pretty straightforward without it.
Yeah, I agree.
So what else we could talk about? I mean, we gotta set aside a big chunk of time for Chris Elliott's career because
That was surprising.
I'm also hazy on the timeline of that because I believe Chris Elliott worked on the David Letterman show from like the beginning in like 1982 around to when it became a late show with David Letterman on CBS in like the early 90s. So this was probably like peak Chris Elliott television celebrity.
Chris Elliott's wiki says he left in early 90. So
Like
he
it's like right after this movie came out practically or around.
yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna be a big movie star now, and then I mean that's kind of what happened. He didn't become a big movie star, but he stopped doing David Letterman. He did Cabin Boy, and then he tried to do SNL, and then his career kind of shifted into like I don't know, character actor. But yeah,
He had something there's something about Mary and then nothing. That's right. I've seen clips of I haven't seen all the way through, but he was in like Scary Movie 2 and yeah, but
yeah. And there's that show everyone likes. It wasn't on that long. That's My Life or something like that. It's a very like self-aware fourth wall sitcom. Get a Life. Better title. Uh,
I'm a 30-year-old paper boy. I could see Chris Elliott saying that, yeah.
yeah. Smug guy who's not very good at his job. That's like Chris Elliott's character. Although in this movie, The Abyss, he he's a very competent and a little bit of a smart aleck, but more or less functional weather scientist or something. What do you call it?
Well, the cast is split in half. He's more like a navigator, I would kind of, because he's reading the sonar. But the cast of the movie is split into the above the air breathers. Well, I guess they're all air breathers because they're humans, but the
Unless you're unless
air
you're an
breathers
alien.
and the people underwater.
Yeah, he's really he. If he wasn't Chris Elliott, I would say all of the above water people are not super noteworthy. They're sort of stand-ins for the American government slash normal society or whatever.
They lose communication pretty early in the movie with the surface world, the people in the rig and underwater.
Yeah. So I guess we can't get into the plot a little bit. Like you said, the nuclear submarine crashes. So the brilliant solution is to have the oil rig crew take care of it because of their proximity to the crash, despite their lack of training for deep sea reconnaissance.
Yeah, they are divers, but yes, they've never done anything like going to a sub.
So Michael Bean and two other guys we hired are the Navy SEALs or
It's
whatever.
actually it's actually three.
How many other guy just died right away or something?
It took a while, but jumping ahead a little bit in the plot, uh, when remember when the whole rig moves a lot and almost falls into the chasm? One of the guys gets he's in the moon pool room. We find out later, as we find out that that's what it's called, and he gets crushed by one of the small vessels in there.
Sounds vaguely familiar, but not super memorable.
Yeah,
The movie felt longer than it was. I think it was only what, 2.5?
222, I believe.
Yeah. I mean it was a good movie, but by the nature of its premises, it's got a lot of similar vibes going, kind of claustrophobic.
Yeah,
So this is the kind of thing I would write out if I had written a format. But aside from Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Mastriano, or whatever her name is, uh, who is your favorite and or least favorite member of the crew?
uh, they're all about the same. I guess by default, hippie
The guy with the rat?
conspiracy theorist. Uh, yeah, because I just those things they gave him the most things for character development.
Yeah,
Uh, so he got to try hard, and everyone else on the rig, other than Ed Harris and him, are people you can imagine with like a tobacco and a spittoon being like, "That's lawful on the rig." Yeah, I'll tell you what.
it was very realistic. I think most rig workers look like I don't remember what his name was, that beefy guy in the tank
That's
top.
Cat, I think you're thinking of,
Yeah.
who's the second most prominent of the crew, who's not Ed Harris. You asked me least favorite. I was gonna go with Jammer because he was just weird. I mean, it wasn't like weird, like bad, like tried to ruin the movie weird, but he gets in a coma because he freaks out when he sees the aliens. Um, and then he randomly wakes up in the coma to save the day from the evil Navy SEALs hell bent on blowing up the submarine. And then he's like, "Jammer, you're okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I thought I was dead
Oh yeah.
when I saw the angel, but I'm okay." Thought that was weird.
Guy did kind of seem like he was kind of dead weight, like when him and Ed Harris are a nuclear sub, and he's like, Ed Harris is like, "Do I need to take you out of here?" He's like, "No, but I can't go any further." This is great because he got scared by what you're referring to, the
Yeah.
alien vision or whatever.
The only other really crew that had they somewhat fleshed out was that her name is One Night, the African American woman uh, who's an expert at driving rigs.
Just kind of weird because they established early on and never really let go of it that uh, what's her? Is it Mary Elizabeth Mastriano, as I say it?
Looks like Master Antonio, and I'm looking
Well,
at that.
They established she's a better driver, and she's a land scientist.
She technically doesn't work on the rig, but yes, she knows every. She's a very intelligent engineer who designed the whole rig and probably designed was involved in designing the little what do we call them drivable robot dealies that
Yeah, they're functionally like mini Millennium Falcons or something because they have that weird.
like shuttles with arms.
Everything has an arm on the rig because you gotta grab stuff, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely technology that to this day it doesn't exist in real life. Probably, I don't think there's rigs like that underwater.
I don't know how because there's some kind of operation for deep sea oil rigs. Those exist. But, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a rig engineer or whatever, play one on TV, but I don't know, like the Deepwater Horizon that blew up or whatever that tried to ruin the Gulf Coast. It just seems like a big rig that goes off the coast into the ground, you know?
Right, but when they were fixing the hole in it, there was some mechanism to go down there and zap it with welding materials.
Sure was just divers with like welding equipment. I mean, it's
It's possible. I don't know. I mean, the I mean, this is definitely getting into territory I don't know anything about, but those documentaries we haven't watched about James Cameron going to the bottom of the ocean, he helped design things that do that kind of. So I don't know. Yeah. That's
yeah.
good, but yeah. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, and character was just kind of forgettable. I mean, that was obviously that was kind of the point. It's very clear that Ed Harris is the most heroic, the most emotionally special of all the crew members. What did you think of Michael Bean's mustache?
Trying to think of other Michael Biehn roles. He was completely clean shaven in Terminator.
And his cameo in Terminator 2. Uh,
And
it
then
looked very similar in Aliens.
I don't think he had a stash in that either.
Yeah, it looks very similar to what's his face, Kyle Reese.
He might have had a stash in God, I really took a he probably has lots of other things, but not as big of a deal. The only other thing I could think of is in he's in Planet Terror.
Yeah,
I think he has a mustache in that, but it's definitely nowhere. I don't remember it that well, but it can't be as epic as the mustache in this movie. It was
I guess that was it's like a pretty clear cut way to say like this guy's the bad guy.
mustache.
Yeah,
I mean, were beards more friendly because Cat had a beard?
yeah, I think beards are more friendly than mustaches.
Do you think Michael Biehn looked like Snidely Whiplash or something?
No, but there's something subconscious about a white face with a black mustache. Kind of reminds me of Russians. And of course, in the 80s and early 90s, there's more heightened. There's still problems with Russia in theory, but now not as bad as then with the Cold War.
Nah, I don't endorse that statement. Putin's really bad.
Yeah, but I think the day-to-day citizen is probably more used to having Russians in their daily lives than the Cold War. Well, I don't know.
Uh, Can't get into political territory. I don't.
Yep.
It's not. Neither era is good. Don't live in Russia, people, if you can avoid it.
Like how Smirnoff managed to have a beard and a full mustache, so I mean, it tells you everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, the I guess before we get full on into aliens, uh, wait, does Michael Bean snap and start killing people before or after he knows there's aliens?
Well, he shakes immediately because they talk about the
No, I'm talking about the actual snap, the teaser at the beginning.
uh just when we just watched this,
I know he wants to nuke
right.
the the thing at the bottom, which I guess is aliens.
And it gets pretty cra because he knows there's aliens when that whole that long stream of water goes into their room, the good guys'
Yeah,
room.
I thought that was the alien, but apparently that's just like
It had to be the alien.
But well, it gets towards the end of the movie, but the aliens don't look like that.
No, it's but the alien how the aliens use the water to communicate by making that long thing.
Yeah, I think it's more of a homing beacon than a alien in there.
Well, it's like if one of our parents calls us right now on the phone and say, "Who was that?" and you say, "Oh, it was mom called," and then be like, "No, it's not mom. That's a phone." And then it's like, "No, that was mom."
Exactly. I think we're saying this similar thing. It's a message from the aliens. It's not an alien
But the aliens visually communicated,
through a communication device or a signal or whatever.
right? But I think Michael Bean snapped before then, and that's when Michael Bean knew about the existence of the aliens.
Mm, you're probably right, but it's hard to tell. That movie, it's like there's no change of setting. So there's a big chunk in the middle where it's like they're on different parts of the rig and it all looks the same.
Didn't take him long to snap.
Well, like you say, he's technically snapping before he knew he was snapping because he had the shakes instantly. So I think I know why, but why do you think Michael Bean was cutting himself?
Good question. Um,
Because I think he was losing his grip on reality. And he's trying to ground himself with a physical sensation.
yeah, that's probably it. There's no functional reason he would do it because
It's not
I remember
suicidal,
watching,
eh? Anything?
I remember watching the movie and thinking, oh, he's gonna do it and he's gonna cut himself and say, "Oh, look, the aliens cut me." But then he didn't say that. He's probably going crazy and it's helping him get through it somehow.
Yeah. There is a calming effect caused by pain. Do not recommend it as a direct solution, but there is something to that. So yeah, there's a I guess what do you call it? Is it a robot? What do you call it? The thing they program to go down with the bomb on it.
Uh, it's more a machine than a robot.
Yeah, but I mean, it has programmable coordinates in it.
It's a remote control underwater mini submarine or something. I don't know, something like that.
Suppose kind of like a buoy, not a buoy, but something like that. So anyway, Michael Bean sends one down there with a bomb on it, and like a lot of these movies do with their clever writing, their first thought is they're gonna catch it before it goes down, to the bottom. But then there's this whole interlude with the dueling boats.
Subs, one man boat thing. Oh,
Yeah, they're kind of like what's that? I don't know. Yeah, they're like well, they kind of operate like airships or spaceships with the mechanism.
Wikipedia calls them mini subs.
So yeah, and then you think something's resolving when Michael Bean dies, but then before the plot can even go further, this whole thing with Mary Mastrantonio drowning, being brought
Yeah.
to the ship. It was almost artificially the most powerful scene in the movie. She dies and stays dead for like several minutes.
Yeah. Like you say, you care enough about the characters that it works. But Ed Harris goes past medical protocols because he believes it's kind of ridiculous. And then
Yeah,
it ends up working that
they kind of imply the
he even
power.
he even smacks her upside the face instead of just giving her CPR.
That was what worked. It was like he was going beyond medical protocol to directly talk to her, and that was what pulled her out of the fog of death or whatever. Yeah.
So her crazy plan to drown herself and then have her vitals be just enough to get revived worked.
Yep. And then the movie just keeps on going because it's like Michael Bean's dead, but the nukes are just sitting at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
They give Ed Harris like a lead-lined sea suit so he can
Yes, but
fall in the ocean.
because like Avatar, and I guess like Terminator as well, and even kind of Aliens, although Ridley Scott started the Aliens franchise, of course. There's some type of science that doesn't exist, and they explain it and use it in the movie. In this case, it's a breathable type of liquid oxygen.
Yeah, that was weird
And the liquid allows you to avoid getting the bends when you go really deep.
because it seemed like it was physically uncomfortable for Ed Harris because he like was sort of drowned himself at first or something.
Yep, he was looked very strained. It was pink liquid, and yep, eyes were bugged out and everything. But it kind of makes sense. He makes sacrifices to try to dive that deep.
Yeah, and they give him the I'm not old enough to remember those things, but like a speak and spell, I think is what it is. Like type on his arm, and then the words come on the screen, and like digital readout.
Yes, because the larynx, an additional extension of this made-up science I'm talking about, the larynx can't produce words, so you can't talk through but your ears still work. You just can't talk. And so you got to type on that.
Yeah. So Ed Harris jumps off the cliff, and there's a lot of like dramatic watching as he's falling, and then he lands where the bomb is, and they try to milk the tension, but he just basically cuts the wire.
Yes. It's kind of disappointing. It's only a two-step process. I thought there'd be more.
Well, it turns out the big existential drama is that the boosters they gave him to come back up. What is it? Wait, is it because he's running out of air, or is it because yeah,
He's
yeah,
running.
or
He's
is
out
it,
of error.
yeah? So it's like kind of like the time when she died. It's kind of like, you're about to die. Maybe you're not gonna die. You probably are. And he resigns himself to die. And then, wait, the first thing he sees, he just sees that jellyfish alien, right? Isn't that pretty much it?
No, he sees a full-on alien. I guess he's jellyfish looking.
I thought it was straight up jellyfish the first time they showed it.
He has a hand, and he reaches out his hand.
That was a big jellyfish with some floating bits around.
But he grabs his hand.
I said jellyfish alien. You say no, it's an alien. Two things can be that my adjective for it can still exist.
But he had a head with eyes and a hand.
Still jellyfish like.
Okay.
So yeah, the jellyfish guy takes him. That was weird. Well, I guess it's not weird. He takes him to a boat, or I don't know what. I guess it's just a station, alien station.
Yeah, I'd call it a massive underwater alien station, I guess.
So,
That's a good word for it.
knowing there were aliens in this movie underwater, I thought the movie was going to be about how the aliens came to Earth and were in the water and they had to get out or something. But they're just saying they just kind of like live at the bottom of the ocean all the time.
I think that's kind of why the reason the movie's called The Abyss, because there's a certain area of ocean. That is true of actually of we actually know very little about the bottom of the ocean ourselves in real life. So yes, I think it's they never explain it. They didn't make an Abyss Part 2 to explain everything like they are with these Avatar movies. So there's no proof. I mean, I guess it's up to your imagination. They could have been aliens that worked their way down there through their existence that started in outer space, or some sort of sea spawn from like who knows, bacteria from a sea volcano or something. Um,
No,
we
I,
don't
I
know.
think the movie's trying to. They're an extension of sea life because they got the whole jellyfish orbiting bodies and they live in looks like shells or reefs.
It's very purple, whatever it is.
And Harris goes on the thing. They do a cool effect that they've definitely done in movies since then, where the water like naturally parts in the middle so you can breathe.
So kind of on that, kind of feel like this movie ended up being good practice for Cameron to because this came out in 89 and then T2 Judgment Day came out in 91, right? Something like that.
Something like that. I thought you'd have it up. But yeah. Yeah, it's
So
91, yeah.
the that effect and then the water communication thing that the aliens used were similar to the T1000 shape-shifting effects in T2.
Yeah, I didn't make that connection, but yeah, it's like it is like 1 to 1. I mean, they go to great lengths to make the Abyss one be benign. When the water's like doing people's faces,
Hmm.
it's not scary. Uh, yeah, so the movie sort of fast forwards the ending after that pretty much because there's not a lot of in between on what Ed Harris how Ed Harris communicates with the aliens at the bottom of the ocean until they lift the entire rig above the water. This sort of like skips to that.
And the boat to the
Yeah. I don't know if you have any thoughts about this, but I noted it when we were watching it together. It's that these aliens make this big presence known, and they walk out onto the Earth stage or whatever, and there's like no one's like scared or like, oh, you gotta kill these guys or something. Everyone's pretty like chill about it.
yeah, I it was odd. I guess it's implied that the sheer beauty of everything is so grand that it's a joyful experience. Um, just particularly odd because it's a Navy ship. Um, and before that even happens, that Chris Elliott's character says, "Oh, we've got a bogey, this huge bogey coming towards us. Oh my God, it's coming towards us. Oh my God, it's coming towards us." And then they're all smiles. It's kind of abrupt.
Yeah, I mean it's clearly a direct mirroring effect for the rekindled romance between San Antonio, Texas, and Ed Harris. Man, my brain cannot process her name. But anyway, because you think, and I don't know, it's my brain going now, but it's this big red reddish mass, kind of like a heart, love,
Yeah.
and they kiss, and then smash cut to credits. I don't actually. I don't think it was a smash cut, but every movie should end in a smash cut to credits, and then a rap song starts playing.
Yeah, it's Schindler's List should definitely end with a smash cut with rap music.
About destruction. Yeah, so I think that's. I mean, not much else to really dwell on with the movie. Start going into our general thoughts or anything. Uh, Something I noticed about this movie. Kind of surprised that Steven Spielberg didn't direct it, and it was kind of like a lot like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Mostly the ending and parts of the middle.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Close Encounters of the Third Kind, it's all about the aliens. And even the aliens appear like a threat in Close Encounters. That tremendous scene where the aliens are trying to take that woman's son and she's fighting against it. They actually do take her son. It's kind of thrilling. And there's kind of nothing like that. It's a lot of the aliens in this movie are until the end because quick shiny glimmeries, and then it's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, yeah. No need to protect anyone. Close Encounters is a little more boring in the meat of it.
Yeah,
This movie was. There's James Cameron knows how to make an action movie set piece where you think one thing's gonna happen, something else happens. I mean, there's emotionally effective parts of this movie, but the two mini submarines colliding into each other and trying to like modulate their speed and stuff. That is like the highlight of the movie for me.
I actually like the things with like the rig being dragged and all the ruckus in the rig. I mean, it's kind of obvious when you're going to the movie, but it's much harder to operate and live and all that stuff deep underwater like that. So then it, I don't know, kind of rewards the common sense by when things go awry, they go really awry because not only are things moving and shaking, but then there's the obvious threat of the ocean water being around them.
Yeah, that was definitely an effective and obvious way of producing generalized dread. Uh, no, I don't know if there's much else to get into here. So this is probably not my most. It's interesting 'cause this is definitely probably not my most favorite Cameron movie, but the Cameron movies I like better. It's hard to compare because of the mix of drama and romance and stuff. It was kind of a different level than like movie I'd say I like better, like the Terminator franchise. So
Yeah.
I think Terminator was like a tighter story with more impressive histrionics, but the emotional depth this movie went to with the romance, it's definitely a contender, which I did not expect watching it because you know it's kind of long. It's been in the bottom of the ocean, but I don't know how do you rank it? Other Cameron movies,
But talked before on this podcast, it's hard for me to compare movies, but other than Piranha 2, which falls into its, which James Cameron, quite honestly, didn't even really direct, even though he's the credited director.
maybe it's fired due to issues with the cheapy production company.
So if I did have to rank all the Cameron movies, I like all the other ones other than Piranha 2, including this one. I'd probably rank it above the two Avatar movies, just because I do like the two Avatar movies a lot, both of them, but the cheese factor puts it down a couple pegs. And I think The Abyss, well, there's some cheese. It's an effective action movie. I like the geopolitical things. But like you said, look at the rest of his filmography. The two Terminators, well, and I think Titanic is just a better movie. That's not, that's kind of a different one. But his other action movies, the two Terminators, Aliens, True Lies, are brilliant action movies that are kind of gripping edge of your seat type thing. Not that Abyss doesn't have that, it just doesn't accomplish as well. And the thing with the aliens and all the details about the rig, it's just not quite as effective as those action movies. And I like the story of the Titanic a lot. Uh,
Yeah, weird thing for me thinking about it is like honestly, even though it was kind of important to the plot, but like the aliens were like the least compelling thing to me. See so many alien stories in a day-to-day basis with science fiction and stuff, and just like yeah, it was just like the emotional stakes of the couple. The aliens just kind of seemed like it was almost tacked on in a weird way.
yeah,
I thought it was getting way more integral to the story. Like, uh, the aliens were gonna somehow cause their romance or something, or it just seemed like I was gonna be. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of another science fiction movie that's like that, but yeah, yeah. That part's kind of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where you throw in the reveal that the aliens are nice at the very end.
Yeah. The movie's called The Abyss, and the abyss of the ocean and the term abyss in general implies an air of mystery. And I think that's probably what he was going for with this movie. Instead of trying to explain everything, it just kind of lets it happen. And
Yeah, and it's like Ed Harris opens his heart to love, and then he does it again with the aliens. It's it's technically effective, but like, yeah, I don't know what you could have done. I mean, you could have made the aliens more integral characters with personalities, or made some aliens antagonistic, but seems too busy. But I don't know. It's a fine film. It's interesting. I saw an internet reviewer who was like, the movie's pretty good, and then the aliens are kind of like a test for like Avatar, and that kind of checks out.
I, obviously, in James Cameron's personal life, he's proven, with this movie making Titanic, and then he made an Avatar movie largely about water, literally called The Way of Water. He loves the ocean and deep sea life. So I think it's almost like a revealing a fantasy of his that there's these wonderful aliens deep in the ocean. That if we learn more about the ocean, which obviously is a passion of his, we talk about those documentaries he made.
He literally went to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, so it's like exactly like the movie.
Yeah. Um, so I don't. Obviously, I hope that reviewer was joking when testing for future movies. 'Cause I don't think.
But that happens sometimes, where it's like the technology's not quite there yet. And he's like, I have this idea for a movie that's all aliens. I can't really do that, but let me see how sort of tweener idea goes. I, I think I think it's plausible. I don't think he expected it to take that long for Avatar to be possible, but we can see some connections between this and Avatar.
mm,
Good Marines, evil Marines. Good Marines commiserate with the aliens.
Scientists slash almost scientists slash engineers.
Sigourney Weaver versus Mary Elizabeth Mastrian.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, but that's not really a critical review. So get to the critical part, I guess. I really like this movie a lot. Uh, I could nitpick some of the plot and stuff, but it had my attention and my interest. I really like the acting of the two leads. Everyone else was whatever, but Ed Harris and Mary were excellent. So highly recommend. In part due to my expectations, how boring it seemed at times. Give this movie like a 8.5 out of 10, which is for me is like really high. Go watch it.
Yeah, similar. I give it. I'll say a nine. But interesting. Cameron has, except for like, I think for his narrative films, except for Titanic, there's elements of science fiction. So it would have been interesting if he tried to make this just people in an oil rig get sucked into nuclear uh, it's a war games, nuclear warfare type thing with the Soviets versus the Americans.
Yeah,
Um,
the aliens could have solved made the nuclear warheads disappear or something.
Funny you say that because apparently kind of sucks in this era of DVDs fading away. There's an extended version of this movie where they do play up the geopolitical part more, and the aliens even show images of war at the end, and
Well, they definitely implied that in the movie that the aliens were somehow a beacon of hope for the Americans who were there.
yeah.
It was definitely rushed. So I could see why he wanted more. So I think that about wraps up this episode of The Abyss. So there was a rule I was going to tell you about, but I forgot. So you probably can't do it now. But I wanted to announce next week's episode at the end of this week's episode, so I have time to watch and make notes on the movie. You didn't pick a movie yet, did you?
No.
Well, you're gonna pick it as soon as possible, so I have a chance of watching on my own. I'm actually preparing a podcast script for once.
Okay.
Stay tuned for that next week on Twin Killing. You have any parting words?
Take care of one another. I don't know.
Keep your feet in the ground, but keep on reaching for the stars. Geisha, geisha. All right, that's it. Good night, everyone.